This Family Life News podcast is made possible by the support of listeners like you.
It's the Noon Report from Family Life, bringing a Christian worldview to what's happening in New York, Pennsylvania, across the country, and around the world. Weather with Kevin Williams, plus special features and reports with the Family Life News team. Now, here's what's happening.
Immigration crackdown. Good afternoon. Welcome to the broadcast.
America is safer today because one of the top domestic terrorists, he is off the street.
Attorney General Pam Bondi announcing this morning the arrest of a 24-year-old gang leader for the group MS-13.
They're one of the most dangerous gangs in our country, and we are going to fight until they are completely dismantled.
The El Salvador native was in the country illegally. He was taken into custody following a sting operation in Manassas, Virginia, about 40 miles south of D.C. FBI Director Kash Patel.
We took down this morning a top leader of MS-13. That is not done easily. That is done with brilliant law enforcement.
Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin says the Trump administration played a vital role in today's arrest.
Until we were able to bring in the federal resources in this way, bringing down somebody like this would not really have been possible.
Attorney General Pam Bondi says for other gang leaders in the country illegally, you've been put on notice.
It's our job to get these people out of our country as fast as we can. We are going to catch them, we are going to apprehend them, and they are not going to like where they are going.
In total, nearly 350 criminal migrants with ties to MS-13 have been taken into custody in just the past month in the state of Virginia. A federal appeals court in Washington, D.C. has blocked deportation flights of Venezuelan nationals, including alleged gang members with the group Tren de Aragua. In a 2-1 ruling yesterday, the court declined to overrule Judge James Boasberg, who declared illegal those migrant flights to a prison in El Salvador.
Well, it's hard enough for the president to protect America and make it safe again, but it gets a lot harder when these activists that are now on the bench are preventing progress in a way that helps secure the border.
Former acting ICE Director Ron Vitello predicts the U.S. Supreme Court will ultimately side with the Trump administration when it comes to enforcement of immigration policy. The White House still grappling with that group text controversy about a military operation in Yemen. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth says no war plans were leaked.
There's no units, no locations, no routes, no flight paths, no sources, no methods, no classified information.
Charlie D'Agata has more from the Pentagon.
The top brass, Hegseth himself, is saying that this wasn't classified information. But when you walk around the halls, the military, they're just bewildered that this kind of information was shared in this sort of environment.
The head of the Senate Armed Services Committee wants an expedited hearing into the matter to make sure mistakes like this one never happen again. President Trump plans to slap new tariffs next week on imported vehicles.
This is the beginning of Liberation Day in America.
The new tax is to encourage more automobile manufacturing here in the States. Business analyst Christine Roman.
He wants factories moving back to the U.S. He wants more auto workers here. He wants high-end auto parts made here. He doesn't want the U.S. to be a place where you assemble cars. He wants cars made in America.
Missouri Senator Josh Hawley.
It's going to mean more auto jobs. It's going to mean higher wages. I mean, people in my state, in the state of Missouri, are cheering this, particularly our auto workers.
Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney's not cheering this. He calls the tariffs a direct attack on his country.
We'll defend our country, and we'll defend it together. This will hurt us, but through this period, by being together, we will emerge stronger.
Critics say the tariffs could slap another $3,000 to $6,000 onto the price tag of a new automobile. The Trump administration planning to freeze $20 million in federal funding for Planned Parenthood. That freeze expected to take effect today. Planned Parenthood is America's largest abortion provider. A Republican lawmaker wants to censure Democratic Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett over derogatory remarks she made about the governor of Texas, Greg Abbott.
Crockett faced backlash for calling Abbott Governor Hot Wheels at a human rights campaign gala over the weekend. Abbott was paralyzed after a tree fell on him when he was 26 years old and uses a wheelchair. Representative Randy Weber says her comments are nothing short of reprehensible.
Crockett's refused to apologize for her Hot Wheels remark. Even the ladies on The View think she was out of line.
Should not have made the comment at all. You should leave that stuff to the Canadian.
This was beneath her. It's just never okay to mock someone's disability.
Yeah.
Last week, Crockett said all she wants for her birthday is for Elon Musk to be taken out, a direct quote. Adults around the world are leaving their childhood religions in record numbers. According to the Pew Research Center, which surveyed 80,000 people in more than 35 countries, 1/5 of all the adults on this planet have left the religion in which they were raised. Buddhism and Christianity have experienced the most losses from so-called religion switching. And play ball. It's opening day of Major League Baseball.
Who doesn't love opening day?
14 games are on the docket today as ballparks coast to coast gear up for a busy 162-game schedule. Baseball writer Julian McWilliams says the defending champion LA Dodgers are favorites to repeat again this year.
What's great about the Dodgers, it's clear. Mookie Betts, Shohei Ohtani, Blake Snell is their opening day starter. It's like you go down the list and they've built this team for a while.
The New York Yankees are taking the field for their season opener this afternoon against the Milwaukee Brewers in the Bronx. Here's Natalie Migliore.
Five-time World Series champion Andy Pettitte will throw the ceremonial first pitch before Yankees left-hander Carlos Rodon takes the mound for his second career opening day. Fans hopeful for the season ahead.
I'm just ready for baseball to be back. Just Aaron Judge sending some bombs over the wall. That's what it's all about.
Beginning of baseball, springtime, leisure time. Let's do this. Go Yanks.
First pitch at 3:05.
Can't wait for that. The Juan Soto era for the New York Mets begins today in Houston. Philly opens the season on the road against the Nationals. The Pirates are in Miami to battle the Marlins. Bring on the boys of summer. Here we go. Still to come on the Noon Report for Thursday, the not-so-sweet Angels Daycare Center. Surprise election results in Pennsylvania and work zone speed cameras work. We'll talk about it coming up.
This is meteorologist Ken McKinley. Abundant sunshine on through the afternoon. Temperatures well up in the 40s, even above 50 in some spots. Very pleasant to be outdoors. Full forecast details for the next couple of days coming up in about 10 minutes.
All right, thank you, Ken. Let's check the stories where you live next. The Pennsylvania Senate Education Committee has approved the Save Women's Sports Act. It protects female athletes by banning biological boys from girls' sports in K through 12 and college. Senate Bill 9 is it's called, now heads to the full Senate for a vote. Michael Geer with the Pennsylvania Family Institute says anybody opposed to this bill may regret it next November.
When you go to election time, and this is an 80-20 issue that the vast majority of Pennsylvanians support, and I think it will be a campaign issue if indeed it doesn't get through the legislature and to the governor's desk.
House Democrats seem unwilling to take up Senate Bill 9, and even if they do, the governor's already promised a veto. Not only does this bill ban boys in girls' sports, it also allows female athletes to take legal action if they are physically injured by a male competitor. Rochester, New York is the latest flashpoint in the ongoing tug-of-war between sanctuary cities and the federal government when it comes to the thorny issue of immigration enforcement. Rochester Mayor Malik Evans.
Our policy is crystal clear. City police officers do not help or participate in federal immigration activities. I've instructed the chief to make sure that every RPD officer receive more training.
The mayor is rebuking some Rochester police officers who took part in a Border Patrol stop of a van this week that was transporting 8 illegal immigrants. Pennsylvania politicians reacting to Democrat James Malone's surprise win in Tuesday's special election. It was for a state Senate seat in Lancaster County. Democratic Minority Leader Jay Costa says Malone's victory sends the message that people are not happy with the federal government. Republican State Senator Gene Yaw believes the GOP lost that race because the party wasn't paying attention. That seat was previously held by a Republican in a district that the president won by 15 points in November. Parents in North Tonawanda, New York want justice for a daycare worker accused of abusing their children. Savannah Huntington was employed at the Sweet Angels daycare. That daycare was owned by Huntington's mother.
I would love for her to go to jail. I feel like anybody who puts their hands on children, especially toddlers, and uses them to get their frustration out, they need to go away for a little bit at least. She shouldn't be able to be around children anymore, work with children, no matter how many daycares her mother owns.
Jasmine Atlehani telling WIVB that her own son was abused at that daycare, which closed last May following a criminal investigation. Sweet Angels also had a location in Newfane closed down after several workers were arrested and charged with child endangerment. Pressure is mounting on New York lawmakers to make work zones safer by making permanent a speed enforcement program. Frank Hoare is executive director of the New York Thruway Authority.
In the not quite 2 years that this program has been in existence, we have seen driver behavior change.
He says the automatic work zone speed enforcement program has caught almost 150,000 speeders on the Thruway alone.
We've seen people slow down, and an important element of this program calls for the fees generated from the violations to go right into safety programs.
Marie-Therese Dominguez is commissioner of the New York Department of Transportation.
Since its launch in 2023, there have been no recorded worker injuries or fatalities in areas where cameras have been deployed. That, to me, is the full measure of the success of this program.
Dominguez also wants legislation that would strengthen penalties for assaulting highway workers.
There's an increase in the number of assaults over the last 5 years for transportation workers. People are literally getting out of their cars, hitting, kicking, throwing hot coffee, hurling insults at our highway maintenance workers.
Last year, 2 members of the Thruway Authority were killed while on the job. A third was seriously hurt. A bill aimed at strengthening school bus safety laws in Pennsylvania. That bill's now headed to the state Senate.
The Senate Transportation Committee has passed a new bill that aims to strengthen school bus safety laws in Pennsylvania. Senate Bill 65, proposed by State Senator Lisa Baker, increases the required stopping distance for opposing drivers from 10 feet to 15 feet, creating a greater buffer for children entering and exiting the bus. The bill would also create stiffer penalties for repeat offenders who fail to stop when a school bus has engaged its red signal lights and side stop arm, including higher fines and mandatory driver education. The bill now moves to the full Senate for consideration. Brian Query, Family Life News.
In a show of bipartisanship, Pennsylvania's 2 U.S. senators are co-sponsoring legislation to expand veteran burial benefits. Democrat John Fetterman and Republican Dave McCormick have introduced this bill that would allow the spouses of veterans to receive headstones or markers at VA cemeteries. Attending prom's a big deal for high school students, especially girls who often face a prom problem when trying to pay for their fancy dresses. Salon Joy in Gouldsboro, Pennsylvania, is lending a helping hand by holding its annual prom dress giveaway. That'll happen next month. Owner Nicole Lando tells WNEP,
"It's really cool. It's really exciting playing dress up. But the most important thing is that we have all these dresses to give away to the community for free to help students go to prom for 2025 and just make amazing memories."
This is Salon Joy's 7th annual prom dress giveaway. Lando says there's still a need for donated dresses, shoes, tuxedos, suits, ties, and jewelry. If you can help, they would appreciate it greatly. That giveaway happens April 18th through the 20th. Sports is next. It's the 2-minute drill on Family Life.
Play ball. Good afternoon. I'm Randy Snavely. Bob, Major League Baseball gets underway today with 14 games on the schedule. The Yankees open at home against the Brewers, while the Juan Soto era begins with the Mets. They're in Houston to play the Astros. The Sweet 16 also gets underway as the men's NCAA tournament kicks back into gear. All 4 number 1 seeds are still alive in action tonight. Top-seeded Duke against 4th-seeded Arizona in the East. And top-seeded Florida goes against number 4 Maryland in the West. In the NBA, the Knicks had a chance to clinch a playoff spot, but James Harden and Kawhi Leonard had other things in mind. Harden had 29 points, Leonard chipped in with 27, and the Clippers took down the Knicks at Madison Square Garden 126-113. Karl Anthony Towns had 34 points and 13 boards in the loss. Toronto blew out the Nets 116-86 in Brooklyn. The Raptors have won 2 straight, while Brooklyn's tailspin continues. They've dropped 5 in a row. And speaking of losing streaks, Philadelphia's is now at 6. Washington ended their 5-game losing skid, knocking off the Sixers 119-114. Also picking up wins, the Lakers, Nuggets, and Celtics. On the ice, the Islanders got beat up by the Canucks 5-2. The Devils 5-3 winners over the Blackhawks. Dallas edged Edmonton 4-3, and the Ducks routed the Bruins 6-2. That is a look at sports.
Thank you, Randy. Men still to come on the Noon Report. Immigration crackdown in Manassas, Virginia. The clock is tick-tocking for TikTok and free speech before the Supreme Court.
Welcome to Breakpoint, a daily look at an ever-changing culture through the lens of unchanging truth. For the Colson Center, I'm John Stonestreet. Conservatives often blame the systemic failings of U.S. public schools on things like wokeness or other progressive indoctrinations that masquerade as education, and there's plenty of blame to be laid there. However, another, prior, and perhaps bigger widespread problem is destructive classroom behavior by students. According to a post-COVID survey conducted by the American Psychological Association, which included nearly 15,000 pre-K to 12 teachers, administrators, staff, and counselors, quote, 33% of teachers reported at least one incident of verbal harassment or violence, while 18% of school psychologists, 15% of school administrators, and 22% of other school staff reported at least one violent incident by a student, end quote. The survey also revealed that nearly 50% of all teachers hope to quit or transfer jobs due to school safety concerns. While the root cause of student behavioral problems is the widespread breakdown of American families, the adoption of critical theory adjacent ideology in the classroom have only made it worse. Behavioral adjustment approaches that often go by names like social and emotional learning or restorative justice in education or restorative discipline in the classroom reframe classroom discipline around notions of things like fairness, empathy, anti-racism, privilege, justice, and inclusion. In some schools, these ideas are baked into every part of the curriculum, including math. Secular educational models like these operate from a naturalistic worldview, specifically ideas that were birthed from secular humanism, a worldview that believes that humans who exist without a supreme creator will naturally bend toward kindness, altruism, and fairness. In this view, students should not be held responsible for bad behavior, at least not in any significant way, because they themselves are victims. Rather than consequences, which parents often do not support anyway, students should be understood and reminded to act justly. The current widespread disillusionment with the educational status quo in America offers an incredible opportunity for Christian schools and Christian educators. However, that means that Christian education has to offer something substantially different and something substantially better. The Colson Educators Program forms Christian teachers to offer what is different and what is better. Educators can begin with a free online self-paced course called Worldview Formation 101. In this course, educators learn to understand the ultimate goal of worldview formation, develop lesson plans that incorporate Christian worldview, and create a classroom culture where students' faith can grow deep and wide. Sign up for this worldview formation course today at colsoneducators.org. That's colsoneducators.org. For the Colson Center, I'm John Stonestreet with Breakpoint.
Thank you, John. Outside we go. Ken McKinley.
Good afternoon. Very pleasant through the afternoon with sunshine. Temperatures well up in the 40s, even 50 or better in a couple of spots. There might be a shower this evening in some central New York locations and also eastern Pennsylvania, but nothing of any great consequence. More clouds for tomorrow. Temperatures still reasonably mild with some rain showing up in Pennsylvania areas and over the southern tier of New York through the afternoon hours. Rain for a while tomorrow night, but later at night, the rain will wind down in most areas as a warm frontal boundary pushes off to the north. Warmer temperatures overnight. A very warm Saturday on the way in the 60s and even 70s in most areas on Saturday. There will be a lot of clouds around, some sun at times, also a couple of showers here and there, perhaps some steadier rain north of the Thruway in the afternoon, and temperatures in that area will turn a bit colder through the afternoon as well.
All right, Ken, thank you kindly. This is the Noon Report on Family Life. I'm your host, Bob Price, and here's what's going on Thursday, March 27th. One of the most wanted men in America taken into custody this morning in a counterterrorism raid in Manassas, Virginia.
He is an illegal alien, and he will not be living in our country much longer.
Attorney General Pam Bondi says the 24-year-old was the leader of the gang MS-13, which is based out of Central America.
He was one of the top members, top 3 in the entire country, head of the East Coast, one of the 3 leaders. So he's very dangerous. He should not have been in this country. He's from El Salvador, but he is no longer tough because he is behind bars.
In total, nearly 350 criminal migrants with ties to that gang have been taken into custody in Virginia in just the past month. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem took a tour of a Supermax prison in El Salvador yesterday. It's the same prison where hundreds of illegal immigrants were flown to earlier this month after being kicked out of this country by the Trump administration.
I want everybody to know, if you come to our country illegally, this is one of the consequences you could face. First of all, do not come to our country illegally. You will be removed and you will be prosecuted. But know that this facility is one of the tools in our toolkit that we will use if you commit crimes against the American people.
Yesterday, a 3-judge panel in Washington, D.C. upheld Judge James Boberg's decision against the migrant flights to Central America. An appeal to the U.S. Supreme Court is likely. The president has just announced a new 25% tariff on all auto imports. Takes effect next Wednesday. Business analyst Christine Roman.
Nearly half of all vehicles sold in the U.S. are imported, and nearly 60% of the parts in vehicles assembled here are imported. That means the tariffs could push up car prices significantly at a time when inflation has already made cars and trucks more expensive for American consumers.
The United Auto Workers Union is applauding the Trump tariffs. The president says they'll encourage more automobile manufacturing here in the States. Those tariffs are expected to slap another $3,000 to $6,000 onto the price of a new automobile. The White House has asked the Supreme Court to intervene after a federal judge denied the Trump administration efforts to ban transgender people from joining the military. That ban was set to take effect tomorrow. A new study contradicts the narrative regarding gender dysphoria. It shows so-called gender-affirming care may actually be hurting, not helping, those who seek this sort of treatment. Jason McGuire with New York Families.
We are often told these people have to have the so-called sex change surgeries or the gender-affirming care to really feel good about themselves, to feel right in their bodies, when in reality, the studies are now indicating something different. And it shouldn't surprise us because God's created us as male and female.
This study shows people with gender dysphoria who undergo sex change operations have demonstrably worse mental health outcomes than those who do not. The U.S. Army trying to locate 4 soldiers who went missing during a training exercise in Lithuania. An armored vehicle the soldiers were in was found submerged in the water. The Republican chairman of the Senate Armed Services Committee is calling for an investigation into the leak of sensitive data on a group chat about a military operation in Yemen.
President Trump is dismissing the incident.
The press upplays it. I think it's all a witch hunt, that's all. I think it's a witch hunt.
But Senator Roger Wicker of Mississippi said Wednesday that his committee wants an inspector general investigation into the leak of sensitive data that occurred earlier this month when the U.S. attacked Houthi rebels in Yemen, and a journalist was inadvertently included in the conversation.
Michael Kastner reporting the U.S. House set to vote today on the Deterrent Act. Its aim is to remove the influence of rogue states like China, Iran, and North Korea from America's college campuses.
The Chinese Communist Party is investing very heavily in American universities, and they're not doing that out of goodwill or charity. They're doing that to influence public opinion.
The bill's sponsor, Kevin Kiley of California.
When you look at the chaos that has reigned on our university campuses and the abhorrent anti-Semitism that we've seen, there's a lot of reason to believe that is also linked to a a lot of the funding that these universities get. And again, in a lot of cases, we don't even know where it's coming from.
Kiley says the Deterrent Act ensures America's institutions of higher learning are free from nefarious foreign influences. The clock is tick-tocking. TikTok's parent company ByteDance has until next Saturday to find a non-Chinese buyer for that social media app or face banishment in these United States. President Trump says he has a plan to save TikTok.
TikTok is very popular. We're going to have a form of a deal, but if it's not finished, it's not a big deal. We'll just extend it. I have the right to have the deal and to extend it if I want. So we'll see whether or not we have a deal. We have a lot of interest in TikTok.
170 million Americans use TikTok on a daily basis. At least 4 different companies have expressed an interest in buying it. Again, the deadline to strike a deal is next Saturday, April 5th. You're listening to The Noon Report for Thursday on Family Life.
This is Faith Under Fire. We take you straight to the voices on the front lines of religious battlegrounds. I'm news anchor Sarah Harnish, and with me today, Alliance Defending Freedom attorney Cody Barnett. We're talking gay conversion therapy. Cody, tell me about the case before the U.S. Supreme Court of Christian counselor Kaylee Childs.
I'd be delighted to. The central feature of this case, can government tell counselors what they can and cannot say in the counseling room? A couple of years ago, Colorado enacted a law that said that counselors cannot give any counseling that would encourage a client to, quote, change his or her gender or sexuality. And it made only one exception for that, and that's if you're encouraging a client to change their gender to become in line with their thoughts rather than their body. This is a huge censorship effort by Colorado to push gender ideology in the counseling room and prevent parents and children from getting the help that they desperately need and want.
If you Google anything on this case, the words that you see are gay conversion therapy, and it's quite controversial. There are dozens of YouTube videos shredding a biblical worldview on counseling for the LGBTQ plus person. Why is Christian counseling necessary and needed?
This is an effort by the state to create a boogeyman of sorts by connecting some past practices with things that counselors like Kaylee Childs does not do and isn't even aware of anyone that does do them. All she does is talk and help clients reach the goals that they set for themselves. Many of these clients come to her with a shared Christian faith, and they want to live a life in harmony with the tenets of their Christianity. So they want her to help them reach those goals, including in areas of gender and sexuality. And you have Colorado saying, no, you can't do that. You cannot prioritize the tenets of your faith. It's just not appropriate for government to be telling clients or counselors how they can set those priorities in the counseling room.
Have Christians lost our voice in the therapy marketplace? On the outside, it seems to be okay until you cross the line you just mentioned on topics like gender ideology.
That is exactly the issue the Supreme Court has agreed to take up. Is what a counselor says to her client's speech protected by the First Amendment? There's a particular current to this case that this is not only speech, but it's speech grounded in faith, which the Supreme Court has been clear gets double protection from the First Amendment. The type of counseling they provide is protected by the Constitution.
You always run into trouble when you take away people's choices. Christian counseling versus secular counseling, my thought on it is if you don't want Christian counseling, don't go to a Christian counselor. Pick something else, but taking away the entire option of Christian counseling is a problem. It's something that shouldn't be happening in this country.
That's exactly right. And this is a particularly unique moment in history where there is a mental health crisis fueled in large part by the gender ideology confusion that is happening. You have many secular organizations recognizing the need for more counseling. So for Colorado to take options off the table, it's only hurting families, not helping anyone.
What happens next in court?
There will be a briefing over the summer to be followed by oral argument in the fall with an expected decision by June of 2026.
And what's at stake if this case is lost?
Number one is the consequences to parents and children. They can't get the counseling that they want, that they need. And this problem is only going to get worse as options that are out there continue to dry up or get overcrowded. It just takes options off the table for these parents and the kids that want counseling that's aligned with their faith. The second piece tier of consequences are to professionals. If the state can say that what a counselor says is conduct that doesn't get constitutional protection, what's to stop the state from saying that to anybody else that has a professional license? And I think the third is just for Christians in general. This will be another domino of the states trying to get Christianity out of the public square. Because if they can take it out of the counseling room, what other parts of the public square can they say this is off limits for those who want to prioritize their faith?
This is a big deal to have a case go in front of the U.S. Supreme Court. I mean, it's like, 1 in every 100 cases actually makes it this far to the nation's highest court to be heard. Why do cases like this matter to you?
God has given all of us unique skill sets and abilities to be able to glorify Him, to be able to be out there on the front lines for His kingdom and to serve His people. And it gives meaning and purpose to the legal work that we do here at Alliance Defending Freedom every day.
Alliance Defending Freedom attorney Cody Barnett. Check out their website to learn more about religious freedom cases across the U.S. Be part of the work on the battlefield. You can find them at adflegal.org.
All right, great work. Thank you, Sarah. Faith Under Fire comes your way Thursdays during the Noon Report. You can subscribe, listen to, and share this feature along with all our original podcasts at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or FamilyLife.org.
Good afternoon. Very pleasant through the afternoon with sunshine. Temperatures well up in the 40s, even 50 or better in a couple of spots. There might be a shower this evening in some central New York locations and also eastern Pennsylvania, but nothing of any great consequence. More clouds for tomorrow. Temperatures still reasonably mild with some rain showing up in Pennsylvania areas and over the southern tier of New York through the afternoon hours. Rain for a while tomorrow night, but later at night, the rain will wind down in most areas as a warm frontal boundary pushes off to the north. Warmer temperatures overnight. A very warm Saturday on the way in the 60s and even 70s in most areas on Saturday. There will be a lot of clouds around, some sun at times, also a couple of showers here and there, perhaps some steadier rain north of the Thruway in the afternoon, and temperatures in that area will turn a bit colder through the afternoon as well.
All right, the struggle between winter and spring happens a lot this time of year. Thank you, Ken. Finally at noon, Cue the Frog.
Once again, it is me, the world's smartest frog, to talk to you about
Kermit the Frog will be delivering the commencement address this spring at the University of Maryland in College Park, Maryland. Officials there announcing the beloved Muppet and legendary Frog will be returning to campus, the campus where he was created, by the way, to share an inspiring message to the class of 2025. That will happen on May 21st. And also, by the way, Muppets creator Jim Henson graduated from the University of Maryland back in 1960. And that's our world, the world we live in. Thursday, March 27th. I'm Bob Price. Family Life News.
You've been listening to the Noon Report, heard weekdays on Family Life. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening to this Family Life News podcast. If you've been encouraged by what you've heard, please share it with others and click the subscribe button to automatically receive future episodes. Family Life is a listener-supported ministry. Podcasts like this are made possible by your financial partnership. Find out more at familylife.org.